one of the things I have found is that I really enjoyed being nice to my wife. It's one of those things where I can be nasty, and I could be unhappy, and I could be ungrateful, and I could be whiny and feel entitled. My wife became really totally dependent on me doing everything. Like, I have to do every single thing in the house, every meal, every load of laundry.
I'm Matt.
Hey, I'm Steve.
Hey, I'm John.
This is the Sober Friends Podcast. We're here for the sober curious, the new guy, and the old timer. We're here to talk about the stuff anyone looking to live alcohol-free has to face day to day, and how we overcame those struggles. We speak for no 12-step group, but we do try to remain anonymous. You're not alone. This is the Sober Friends Podcast. Steve, kindness is something that is in short supply these days, and it feels like it's something incredibly out of fashion, so to speak. I think that kindness in recovery is also something that's very important. I was going through a list of podcasts that Mark at Recovered does, because he's got like literally thousands of episodes. So it's easy to go through and say, that's a good topic for us to go over. And so I thought today, kindness. And there's kindness is a lot of things. It's a recovery tool.
I mean, for some people it's easy, right? Like everything in this world, some people kindness is a natural way they behave. I think for a lot of alcoholics, that's not the case. Right? That is, the reason why many of us are drinking is to cover up so much pain, is to cope, so much trauma that we don't have to deal with. So under those circumstances, It's really hard to be kind, right? It's really hard to be kind. And we talk about it all the time. The people most affected and the people I treated most poorly, and, during my worst years of either drinking or on my dry drunk, if you will, were the people I loved most, right? I mean, it was impossible to be kind to those people. And it's something that life has just given me the opportunity to really, really work on. It's interesting that you brought up this topic today, because it's something that I realized, like, there's been a drastic change in how I feel about that in the last, 2.5 or 3 months. So it's a great topic. Like I said, you have to be kind to ourselves, and there's so many layers to it, like there are with a lot of things that, where do we start? How do we do it? How do we heal, right? You got to heal first. So it's a great topic to sort of think about, and it's a great topic for early recovery, right? Is to keep that in our minds, like, there is kindness out there, right? And that's one of the things. Like, when we first come into this program, like, it's hard to see that, right? Because a lot of us are beaten down pretty badly. But when we start to get better, when we start to look, we'll see that there was and is a lot of kindness that's been offered to us throughout the years. So great topic, and glad to be here with you this morning, Matt. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I look at kindness as stop being a prick if you really want to get sober. And that seems very easy, but it's hard. You get so used to being nasty.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times that nastiness
I just look back at me like
self-defense.
I was a prick or a jerk or whatever you want to call it, and still can be. Right? We talk about it all the time. Like, I have that character defect that I spent most of my life in that place. Right, I talk about it. I didn't come into these rooms to a place where I could find real recovery and do some real work and do some real healing until I was 52 years old. Right? So I had, a long time of, as an adult, of dealing with this type of stuff. And I dealt with, one of the biggest things, I dealt with fear through anger. Right? Like, if and so in order to make that, there's not a switch, right? If there was a switch I could change, I would, but there's not. There's just practice of steps and all of these things, and which is where for me, and I know for you, is our AA program comes in, right? It's where it is, because we don't practice perfection. We practice progress. We practice doing what we can, the best way we can, in that day, in that moment, right? And we fall short. So, but we have an opportunity, we have a way that we could fix that and we have a way to avoid it, right? And I don't want to make it sound like we're always going to do it. There are ways to avoid it, and I use a lot of those ways to avoid it today, but I fall short, and then I have to do some amends and do some cleanup work. But I have tools to do that, and that's good for me.
I'm going to put a pin in that anger hurt, why it was there, and that's why it was unkind, because that's where we're going to bring it back to ourselves. I'm thinking in terms of others right now, and I'm thinking of the people that were kind to me. When I first came in, people were kind to me. That was an important thing. And I don't know if I trusted it immediately, right, that people were kind, that they had an agenda. What was it? Did they want me to get involved in this cult or club? Or their church, or I need to pay money. Because I just never thought anybody had my best intentions in mind. And a lot of times I was correct about that. But the first thing is receiving that kindness from other alcoholics up front. That was one of the reasons why I started coming back to those meetings, because people didn't know me yet. They extended their hand and they were kind to me. And it was a very warming feeling.
Yeah, it's
and
nice.
That alone kept me sober for a while.
And again, it's changed a lot. We make fun of the old timers and the cranky old guys, but it's changed a lot to where now, and even in those days, I think there is a lot of kindness. There's a lot of people who, and I look at and this is the whole point with kindness, right? And I've always said this before, is I behave a certain way when I go to a meeting, and then maybe behave differently when I'm outside of the meeting, right? When I go to the meeting, I have lots of kindness and flexibility, and if somebody comes in and says, oh, I relapsed, or, oh, I did this, I have a lot of empathy and kindness to them, right? Because I understand from an alcoholic's point of view how that happens, what that looks like, but when I get outside of that, it's a little bit more difficult, right? Because I'm not always dealing with alcoholics, and I'm dealing with maybe relationships that are a lot more emotionally intense and all those type of things. So the rooms are very kind, and there's lots of flexibility and empathy. And there's a lot of also, right? We go to my Friday night meeting. It's a no holds bar, no bullshit, kick-ass meeting. And there's a couple guys there who, will tell you exactly the way it is. And you may not like that, but even in those moments, that's really kindness, because they'll also tell you, like, listen, they want you to survive. They want you to live. They don't want you to die, because we see it all the time, if you're active in this program, that people go out and die, right? This isn't people go out and they lose their job or whatever. People go out and relapse and die. So there is kindness even in tough words, but it's nice to have it in our program.
So what I'm hearing here is sometimes if you go to a meeting and one of the old timers says something to you like,
no, you've been moronic. That's much more depressing.
Yeah.
It's something that is actually kindness in a way when they're doing something like that. I agree. That's hard.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I've seen it happen. Like I've seen people get in other people's face and like just, dress them down and just like, or say to them, like, just go out and fucking drink, right? Like really give it to them. And it really is coming from a place of love and kindness, because what they're saying is you got to get your shit together. You got to do some work. You got to do some of it. So it is hard. Trust me, it's hard. But because, listen, when I sponsor people, I'm not a tough sponsor. I'm not. It's just not. I'm not. I know guys out there like they do. There's my buddy Todd at Friday night. It was funny. Like, he talks about if he's going to be your sponsor, there are certain things you're going to do, or it just doesn't work. Like, that's just the way he is, right? And it was funny because my buddy Jim said the other day, he goes, I don't think I'll be signing up with Todd anytime soon, right? And it did bring a big chuckle but Todd will also go out at 2:00 in the morning if you call him, right? He will get up and go out at 2:00 in the morning to talk to you, to have a cup of coffee with you if you need it. Like, he's that dedicated to his outreach and his 12-step work. So, so there's kindness in that. That's my point. Like, there's kindness in it, even if it doesn't sound like it. And I think what happens with us is, and we talked about it, is, again, we are so damaged when we come in. Not all of us, of course, not all of us. But I was so damaged. I'll speak from my point. I was so damaged when I came in, emotionally, right? Emotionally, spiritually, even physically. It's more the first time than the second time. That it was hard to see anything like it. I was just going through the motions, and it got me thinking. There's a Friday night. There's a guy Friday night who's young, in his 40s, probably mid 40s, and he's really good. He's very spiritual. He's very religious. And he's just realized that he's had a calling to become a Catholic priest. And he's talked about it a lot. And he just stopped working a couple of weeks ago. Was his last time. And he is. Now he's on his way. And he was talking, like, there's a group of them getting ready to go through the process, and they're traveling together. And he was talking about how they're meeting with people. I don't know where they're meeting these people, but with homeless and addicts and alcoholics. And that's where I talk about. I think if you look back on a lot of our journey, there's people like that, like this. The gentleman's name is Dan. There's people like that who are out there doing kindness type work for really, really downtrodden alcoholics. So it is out there, and I think that as we go through recovery, a lot of us can see the fact that there were lots of opportunities and lots of instances where people were very kind to us, even on our worst days, right? Even on our worst days. And I know that's true for me, right? I mean, people around me were very kind. They put up with a lot of my bullshit for a long time. And I'm grateful for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, Dan's going to become a priest. You better become a White Sox fan. You better know some stats from Jim Thome and from Frank Thomas, because that's the way you get ahead now.
No, not at all.
You got to know your way. You better not be a Chicago Cubs fan. It's all about the White Sox now. God's team. Yeah. Atlanta, America's team. Chicago White Sox, God's team. I don't think God can even help them. That acceptance of, there's something to be said with accepting kindness too, because I know there are times I don't feel worthy of being kind too. I don't feel worthy of accepting kindness, because if you knew what a piece of crap I was, you wouldn't.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. That's a great point of
to know me,
of us, of when we come in, of how we can be so beaten down on our own thing, our own past, our own mistakes, our own behaviors. Like, again, we're so damaged. Like, it could be very, very difficult to think we're worthy of kindness. And that's where things like kindness and grace come in, right? I mean, grace is something that, you get that's not earned, right? So that's where you got to start thinking that. And again, that's where when you come into this program, when you come into recovery, that's the whole point of having a group to deal with. Our group is AA. That's the whole point, is that people can show you that you are worthy of kindness, right? People can help take you through that. People can tell you, like, no, it's going to be okay. I just know that a lot of times when I'm stuck in my stuff, I need to talk to another alcoholic who just sort of says to me, that'll be okay, It's not going to be like that. Our buddy John and I had coffee Wednesday, right? Because I've been having a tough go of it, and he reached out to me whenever. And I was telling, now he's got nothing but time. And he was asking me how I was doing with all this stuff. I've mentioned my wife was going through some surgery here, and it's been a long haul for the last 3 months. And so he's like, hey, how about coffee? And so we went out for coffee Wednesday morning, and and it was nice to get out there and talk to somebody, and I could tell him how the world looks dark to me, like, oh, I don't know if I'm ever gonna hike again. And he looks at me, and goes, oh, right, and he's like, no, you will. You'll get back out there. You'll get back, And it's nice to hear that, like somebody else to say, "No, you will. You'll get back out there. You'll do this." And I need to hear that from people, and that's kindness, right? It's kindness. The fact that he says, "Hey, how about coffee?" And he drove down. And we went to a little coffee shop right here in town, and we spent an hour together. That's kindness. That, like, hey, I'm checking in, see how you're doing, and that's really. That's really, really big. One of the things and I just want to talk about something personal. One thing, I've talked about it before. My wife was going through some surgery. She needed a hip replacement, and it's been delayed for lots of things. She ended up in the hospital, was delayed. So it was supposed to happen March 11th, and it just happened on May 6th. So we've been dealing with it for pretty close to 3 months by the time we got started and all that kind of stuff. So one of the things that's happened is I've had to do a lot of hands-on care with my wife. And one of the things, and we've talked about this, one of the things that's happened is, and there's times where I've gotten frustrated with that. And like I said, I've gotten in some dark places, like, is this ever going to end? All that kind of stuff. But one of the things I have found is that I really enjoyed being nice to my wife. Right. And again, it's one of those things where I can be nasty, and I could be unhappy, and I could be ungrateful, and I could be whiny and feel entitled, and all of those things were to the normal. And then, my wife became really totally dependent on me doing everything. Like, I have to do every single thing in the house, every meal, every load of laundry, and, literally bringing her stuff, every medication. And I found that I liked it. First of all, it gave us a chance to spend some really intimate time together, right? Like, really intimate time, and really had some opportunities to talk.
Yep.
And plus, my wife's not a big self-starter. So it gave me an opportunity to try to help her. I mean, I couldn't be mean to her, right? Like, all of this going on, she just, her body's failing her at this point, and she needed some help, and there was nothing she was doing wrong. And so I couldn't be mad at her. There was no reason to be mad at her or anything like that. I could be frustrated, and I would get frustrated. And there were times I would just tell her, listen, I can't do this right now, whatever it is.
Yep.
And she's fine with that. But and I'm not sure I could really put a finger on it right now, but I have loved the fact that we've been able to spend this time. I've been able to really take care of her and treat her special, right? Like, that whole thing, it's almost like, treating her like it's her birthday every day. And it's interesting because my wife gets up and I'm like, hey, what do you want for breakfast? And she'll like, I want some French toast. And I'll whip up some, great French toast. And nowadays we always have fresh fruit, and I cut up some fruit, and I love serving her that meal and watching her eat a good, healthy breakfast versus something she may not eat if she was, she had to do it on her own. She wouldn't do that if she had to do it on her own. She would just grab something and eat it. So it's been nice to see that. And it's been nice to see that there's been some habits that she's developed that have really helped her. And if they help her, they help us, right? And that's the whole point. So there is some benefit to it. But I really have liked it. I don't love the fact that, literally up until recently, I felt like I couldn't leave the house for more than an hour or two, right? Now I feel like, okay, I can go, if I want to be gone for 2 or 3 hours, and that's fine. I'm just starting to do that. So that's starting to make me feel a little bit more comfortable. But I don't know exactly, but I tell her all the time, I love taking care of you. I love that this has been a tough go for us, but I do think there's been a silver lining for me that has just changed me somehow. And I hope after we get back to what we consider to be a normal thing, it continues. We'll see. We'll see if that happens. No, there isn't any reason it shouldn't. So it's been nice.
There's no reason it shouldn't.
Well, I am, but
unless one of you are a psychopath, then it shouldn't. This is how I heard this. As you're talking about this, I'm realizing this is almost like a project. It's a project like you are building a bookshelf with your wife, and you are seeing the benefits of the work you're putting in. That's why it's beneficial. That's why you like doing it. You see that there is an effect.
Absolutely, and there's no question. But there's also, again, I don't want to get off topic here, but there's also a little bit of I have to be careful with my own expectations, right? That, a lot of this is, like I said, my wife needs a lot of encouragement. John and I were talking about it, and I said, she's not one. She's not going to get up and go, oh, I need to get up and do my PT exercise. Like, just not her. She sort of looks at me, and I'll go, hey, we need to do PT right now, or, this morning. And we'll set it up because she still needs help to do her PT right now. So there are some expectations that I need to be careful with that, she is who she is, and hopefully she'll carry some of the stuff on to her own. We've talked about it. She has some goals that I hope she'll continue to do, because if she can do those goals, then they allow us to, as a couple, to do more stuff. So, but again, it's weird. I've talked about it before on this podcast, and I talk about it in my meetings all the time, is I've always wanted to be, I feel like my goal in life today is to be useful. And I tell this with sort of a joke, a laugh, and I said, well, God has given me this opportunity to be useful right in my own home for the last 2 months, like really, really useful, right? And and it's been useful without expectations, right? There are no expectations. It's not like, okay, I'm going to do this for you, but then I want this in return, right? That's not going on, because it's a one-way thing right now. She just needs my help, and there's not much she can do to really, to do anything else about it. She needs to just take and hopefully, like I said, she'll be better, and she'll continue on some of this work we're doing right now. But it sort of fits into what I wanted out of life. I want to be useful. I want to be kind. I want to be an easier going person. And I guess that's my whole point, right? And maybe that's why I feel so good about taking care of my wife, because I've sort of said these things and I believe these things. I want to be useful. I want to be nicer. And this has given me that opportunity to do all this stuff. And I wouldn't have signed up for it, right? Like you couldn't have told me that that's what I was going to get out of this, right? But it is what I've gotten out of it.
This is really about meeting people where they are. When I hear this, when we're talking about kindness, because it's easy to get resentful and it's easy to get frustrated with somebody else. We are all different. It's neither right nor wrong. If your wife is not as much of a self-starter, but you are, that's okay, because she has other strengths that you don't have. But it is worth recognizing and not getting frustrated. Well, this person's not like me, and they're not a self-starter, and they're not going to do those things. It's very easy to go down that. Kindness is realizing somebody's not like me, and that's okay. My wife has some issues I shouldn't say she has some issues in stubbornness. She's really stubborn on a lot of things. Right. And I have been kind in being patient with certain things. Now, I wasn't patient this week, but I was patient in my approach, because we went to urgent care. She had vertigo. The vertigo ended today. So the vertigo started Monday very suddenly. And I used ChatGPT to figure out what was going on and whether I should take her in. And ChatGPT nailed it. It said the crystals in her inner ear are dislodged. And that's what the doctor said. And it said, take her to the doctor, because she was kind of listing. Her alignment was off. And if I put her in a big parking lot and told her to walk straight, she eventually would end up where we started and go in a big circle. And seeing that really concerned me. So I said, screw it to work. I'm like, I'll be in later. I took her in because she couldn't drive. And I've had to do a lot of the driving because with that vertigo, she's been very, 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 very dizzy. And like she's been doing the exercises, which is really strange. These exercises that basically force the crystals back in along with some medicine. She woke up happy as a clam. She's like, it's gone, which it can go away as fast as it can come on if you do the right things. But I was insistent she do a follow-up with her doctor, and I took her. And again, it was like, we're going to drop everything right now, and work will be there for me. And I was also fortunate that work wasn't busy this week. It's going to get busy soon, but right now I'm going to take advantage of where it's not, so I can be kind, but I can be kind to her while also guiding her the way she needs to be guided. I have taken that approach with like sleep apnea. I bought her a Apple Watch because the Apple Watch now has software that will detect it. She wanted one, but I did it sneakily to see, is it going to pop up? And it did. And she has been resistant to call the doctor and get a sleep study and stuff. And we saw it on the app, and I'm like, here are some benefits for you of why you really need to do this. And she's like, yeah. So she's closer to getting there, but I'm not on her ass every day like I would be in the past. I'm being kind, meeting her where she is.
It's exactly how
while also being...
When I'm in the right place, just like you, when I'm in the right place, I do that too. I'm doing that right now with my wife. Whereas, when it comes to PT, right? Like sometimes it's better for her to get the message from someone other than me. And I see that, right? And now what happens is, and usually what happens is I try to make sure, especially early on, when the physical therapist is there, I'm there, right? Because I want to see what she's doing so then I could help her do it. Because, again, right now she needs a lot of help with it. And so I can see the physical therapist do it. And, for instance, the physical therapist took her outside, which was like, I wasn't ready for that. And she got my wife walking outside, and I was there. I was actually doing stuff outside, and I watched my wife walk, and I'm like, honey, you're walking great. Like, you're not walking with a limp. You're walking great. And so, I'm able to say to her, like, hey, we need to do more of that, right? We need to get you outside so that you can go for a walk and do that. And because if I had said that, she probably would have been resistant to it. But now that the physical therapist took her out there and did it, it's probably something that she'd be willing to do with me. So same thing. I try to be careful. I try to be persistent, persuasive, whatever. Right. That word. And without being
Persuasive.
A jerk, right? Because in the past I would do that thing. I could get frustrated and like, just do it, right. And that doesn't work well, especially with my wife. It does not work well with her at all. I use them all the time.
Skills.
I tell you, I think I talked about it on this. I wish I kept it. I think I got rid of it. I had a book forever in my office, and it was called "Everything's Negotiable If You Know How to Play the Game." And it talked about and it's what it talked about, and it says that everything's negotiable. I use my sales skills all the time, not just on my wife, but on everybody. Right? It's like, I mean, I do it just like you do it. I do it, and people don't even know I'm doing it, right? It's like, I know how to move people a certain way, not all the time, but sometimes
all the time,
to a place where I want them to be. Our buddy John, who's also a salesman, who comes to Monday night, always says, he goes, my job is to get people to do something they don't want to do, right? To buy something that maybe they don't want to buy. That wasn't so much the case for me, but I did that for a while in my sales career. So you have to learn how to do that and be a little bit persuasive.
I would say it differently. Sales is education. Sales is somebody who doesn't want to buy. You're teaching them that they didn't understand why they didn't want it. They have to understand. They have to see something there that they didn't know existed.
Absolutely. I've always tried to feel like I was a
good sales.
And I always was. I mean, I spent my whole career in sales and doing everything, all different types of stuff. And I always felt I did it with kindness and integrity. Like I never sold somebody something just because I needed to make a buck. If I thought that person, right. If I thought that person couldn't use or didn't want, like I've walked out of many sales deals, like, no, this isn't right. I'm not doing this, you know? But yeah, I agree.
That's a form of kindness. You can sell somebody something and you have made their life better because of how you have talked about it and meeting them where they are. And people can be grateful to you because of what you've offered. I've been grateful of walking out of a car sale, not realizing I needed a feature or something, and realizing if you didn't walk me through why I needed that, I might be screwed.
Lots of ways to be kind in this world.
Thank you for the experience.
And, it's a little cliche-ish, but it is a better world when we're kind to each other.
Yeah, we didn't even touch half of the things that I wanted to talk about. I will tell you a little trick of I put the topic into ChatGPT, and then I said, give me some talking points here that we can guide this. And I've got about like 20 talking points we could have gone down. We never got to. Oh my God, I love these AI tools, not to do the work for me, but to give me suggestions. So if you want to know some more things you can be kindness about, it's in the Substack. It is available pretty much as soon as the podcast comes out, that I kind of write based on the topic that we talk about, but it's independent. You can listen to the podcast, you can read the Substack, and you can get something extra from each, or you can listen to either or. Some people like to read, some people like to listen. So go to soberfriendspod.substack.com. Almost gave my other Substack.
I read that.
Because I'm insane. Now I have 2 Substacks that I'm writing about. I just wrote about Pete Rose, and I was not kind to Pete. I do not like Pete Rose at all. He was a bad person. He has no business being in the Hall of Fame. There's no kindness I can extend to him, because he was unkind to many people, including 14-year-old girls.
All right, Matt.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly, my ass, allegedly. All right, Steve. Thanks for being kind with us today. We'll see everybody next week. Bye, everybody.